We are back with chapter 3. We started it last time, and Joey was trying his hardest to be good in class, but he had a hard time sitting still, especially after lunch when his medication ran out. So his teacher gave him some old pencils to sharpen, and he started sharpening other things. Chalk, popsicle sticks, and what's her name? Maria Dombrowski was watching. We'll see what happens next. The sharpener had a bunch of holes for different sized pencils, like the regular hole for number 2 pencils. Then when you turned the dial, there was a bigger hole for thicker pencils, and even a hole big enough for one of those giant clown pencils that are about as thick as my finger. Mom had said I needed to cut my long fingernails back because I was scratching myself all up in my sleep. Plus, I thought it would be cool to grind my nails down to sharp points and look like a vampire. So, I stuck my little finger in and gave it a good turn. Oh, what do you think's gonna happen? But in an instant, I jerked it out and started shrieking. Mrs. Maxey spun around and ran toward me. I slipped, I hollered. It was an accident. Let me see that, she said, and grabbed my hand. I held my finger up in the air, and it was only a little scratched up and bloody on the tip, but the nail had been yanked over to one side and was just hanging there like when you peel the shell of a shrimp. Oh! It doesn't hurt, I said, trying to get my hand away from her and shove it down into my pocket where no one could see it. It's okay. The next thing I knew, Mrs. Maxey had a wad of tissues around my finger, and she held it tightly with one hand and told me that it was going to be all right. And she held my elbow with her other hand to settle me down, because by then I was swinging around and slapping at my leg with my free hand as if red ants were biting me all over. It's not good to hurt yourself, she said calmly. I was just playing vampire, I explained. She took me directly to Nurse Holyfield, who said she'd seen worse and not to worry. Other kids had done the same thing. She fixed me up with a big white bandage around my finger so that it looked like a stick with a huge wad of cotton candy on the end. The nail will fall off, she said, but don't worry, you'll grow another. Is there a fingernail fairy? I asked her. Because if there is, I'll put it under my pillow and get $1. She smiled at me, glanced up at Mrs. Maxey, and nodded like they both knew something about me that I didn't know. People were always giving each other secret looks about me, but I didn't care. I had private thoughts of my own, and that I didn't share with them, so it made us even. After class that day, Mrs. Maxey was waiting for me at the door. We have to have another talk, she said. Let's sit down. I stared at her because I wasn't sure what to talk about, and if I started talking first, it could be about anything. So I waited, and she went first. Joey, you have to listen to me carefully, she said in a calm radio voice. I want to help you, but you have to help yourself, too. Today, you hurt yourself. It was an accident, I shouted, and jumped up to my feet. But she just put her hands on my shoulders and slowly pressed me back down into the chair. But you did it, she said. The other kids would not have done this, and this is my concern, that you don't know what will hurt you and what will not. And no one at the school wants to see you hurt, and no one at the school wants to be hurt by you. I wouldn't hurt anyone, I said. Not intentionally, she replied, not on purpose. But we have to make sure that you don't. I didn't know why. I couldn't listen to her. She talked some more about the dangers of hurting people, but it was as if all her words were crowded up together in a long line of letters and sounds that just didn't make sense. It was more like listening to circus music than to talk. Joey, she said, you need to know that there are limits in the classroom, and if you can't live by those class rules, then we'll have to send you down to the special ed class for extra help. We've talked to your mom about this. Okay, I said, only saying the word because agreeing to stuff was the best way to make it stop. Okay, I get it. But I didn't get it, because the special ed room was new, and I didn't even know what it was to get. Please do get it, she said. We all want to help you go in the right direction. When Mom returned home from work, I told her about my day and showed her my finger. She sighed, pulled her hair back into a ponytail, and snapped the rubber band around it. Let me see, she said, and unwrapped my bandage. While she looked at my finger, I looked at her face, which turned sad. It's going to be okay, she whispered, as if loud talk would make it hurt. I think so too, I whispered back, and very carefully she rewrapped the bandage. Did you get in trouble? She asked. Not really. The nurse said it was no big deal. Good boy, she said, and gave me an air kiss. Now mix me my medicine. The beauty parlor was a zoo today. I ran over to the kitchen cabinet and got the jug bottle of amaretto with the red $23.99 price sticker right on the paper label. Mom had been calling it her medicine ever since I got my medicine. I think in the beginning she called it that so I would not feel bad about having to take something to make me feel better. Like we had something in common because, as she said, her medicine makes her feel better too. I first got my meds after Mom had her school meeting and took me to the clinic. I spoke with a doc who had a lot of forms and asked me questions like, can you do homework while watching TV? And during dinner, can you keep your napkin on your lap? Then he gave me a Rubik's Cube and timed how long I played with it until I gave up. He wanted to know how I felt when other kids called me names, and I asked him how he knew kids called me names. And he said he was just guessing. And I told him some kids on my street call me Zippy because I was skinny and hyper and other names too, and I didn't like it. Then he spoke with my mom for a long time and made her fill out a lot of forms. But we must have passed the test because afterward we went directly to the pharmacy, and while I waited for the prescription to be filled, I picked the cotton stuffing out of an old padded chair. By the time Mom gathered her things up and paid for the big bottle of pills, I had hidden all the cotton in my pants, which made me bunchy around the middle, like a lumpy scarecrow. All the way home in the car Mom had borrowed, I kept picking it out of the tiny hole I had worked in my pocket and slowly tossed it out the window. By the time I got home, I was so scared, because I thought the pharmacist would discover his skinny chair and follow the little wads of cotton to my house, like when Hansel and Gretel first made a trail home with breadcrumbs. I was so afraid I told Mom what I was thinking, and she held my cheeks in both her hands and kissed my face and said, "Don't worry so much. Now let's get you some medicine." She put a pill in my one hand and a glass of water in the other, but before I could take the pill, she said, "Just hold on a minute more." She got the bottle of amaretto and mixed it with some Mountain Dew and then said, "See, Mommy has her own meds. It comes in a bottle." Then we clinked glasses and I took my pill. I was so happy to take it. I could feel it going down my throat like a little white round superhero pill on its way to beat up all the bad stuff in me. Everyone said it would help. And it did. That first day I felt quiet as a lamb. There's a simile. And went to bed early and didn't wake up until the next morning at 10. By then, Mom had already gone to the beauty parlor and left me a pill to take and a note telling me to just stay indoors all day. So I stayed home and I felt like a normal kid for a while. But then my old self started to sneak up over me. After watching Wheel of Fortune and The Simpsons rerun on TV, I got up and made a huge peanut butter mess in the kitchen. And when Mom came home, she freaked out and gave me another pill, but it didn't work as good. And I could hardly sleep that night. In fact, after that first day, the pills only worked on and off. I never knew which it was going to be. Peace or consequences, Mom called it. She phoned the clinic and a doctor said it was because I was going through extra early puberty, so my blood was half boy and half man, and the medicine worked good on the boy part, but not on the man part. I told that to Nurse Holyfield today when she was fixing my finger, and she said it was pure nonsense, and that the problem was we were given the cheap medication, and some worked, and some were duds. When I finished fixing Mom's drink, I put the amaretto away and carefully carried the drink to her. She tasted it and said, "Joey, if you slip any more, school might just let you slip away down the drain like Grandma. And the class will continue on as if you never existed." "Is that what happened to Grandma?" I asked. "Not quite," she said. "As it turns out, your dad was in town and Grandma decided it was easier to live with him wherever he lived. So she's back in Pittsburgh with him." "I hope she's okay," I said. "Don't worry about your Grandma," she said. "She's as tough as an old leather whip and might just crack some sense into your dad." She smiled as if she believed that. Whew, so Joey's got some stuff going on. Don't ever put your finger in the pencil sharpener and sharpen it.